The Golden State Warriors closed last season on a painful note. The team fell short of expectations, exits came earlier than hoped, and the front office was left with plenty of questions heading into the offseason. But buried inside that frustrating stretch of basketball was a genuine silver lining: the sudden and convincing emergence of Brazilian forward Guilherme Santos as a legitimate offensive force. And now, as Golden State prepares for the 2026-27 season, that development may matter more than people are giving it credit for. Hey, what's up everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes, but the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do, and honestly the best way to back this content up, because every single like pushes this further. So hit it now. Santos did not start the season as a household name. He had spent his early NBA years flashing potential without ever putting it all together for an extended run. That changed dramatically from February 1 onward, when the Warriors needed players to step up with injuries taking a toll on the roster. Santos responded in a way that surprised even his most optimistic supporters. Over that stretch, he averaged 15.3 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 4 assists per game while converting exactly 50% of his field goal attempts. Those are not backup numbers. Those are the numbers of a player who can be trusted with the ball and asked to produce. The Warriors organization recognized what they had in front of them. Before the season ended, they locked Santos in with a 3-year, $15 million contract extension. It was a smart move, securing a player who had just proven he could carry offensive responsibilities at a cost that won't cripple the salary sheet. For a franchise that has been searching for reliable secondary scoring options, that extension looks like a bargain in the making. Now, the key question heading into training camp is not whether Santos can contribute. He already proved he can, but what role he will fill in the 2026-27 rotation. The honest answer, based on how the roster is currently constructed, is that Santos will most likely come off the bench when the season tips off. The projected starting lineup puts Stephen Curry at the point, with Brandon Podziemski and De'Anthony Melton competing for the second backcourt spot, Yaxel Lendeborg and Draymond Green handling the forward positions, and Kristaps Porzingis at center. That is a reasonable group on paper, and it leaves Santos without a clear opening in the first 5. Green is earning $27.7 million this season and deserves the opportunity to show what he can do as a starter. Lendeborg, the team's exciting young forward, has enough of a perimeter game to coexist with Green and does not need Santos alongside him to function. So Santos slides to the bench, but that is not the end of the story. It might actually be where he provides the most value. Look at what the Warriors' second unit has lacked for the past couple of seasons. When Stephen Curry sits, the offense tends to stall. Golden State has struggled repeatedly to find a bench player capable of creating their own shot, drawing fouls, and keeping the scoring engine running without their star on the floor. Santos fits that need better than almost anyone else currently on the roster. His combination of size, touch around the basket, and improving comfort as a shot creator gives him tools that most reserve players simply do not have. The bench unit is currently projected Melton and Al Horford, Will Richard, Gary Payton-Tim, and Santos. Features several solid contributors, but only one player who can genuinely manufacture offense in isolation. That player is Santos. Asking him to take on that role is not a stretch. It is the natural extension of what he already demonstrated in those final months of last season. There is also the question of how sustainable his production was. Critics will point out that Santos benefited from expanded minutes during an injury, depleted stretch, and wonder whether he will regress when the rotation tightens. That is a fair concern to raise, but it overlooks what he actually showed. His efficiency was not a product of easy shots. He scored in the mid-range and at the rim, created contact, and made smart decisions with the ball. Those are skills that travel across situations. They do not disappear when a player moves from starter to reserve. Santos signed that extension with a purpose. He knows what he can do. The Warriors know what he can do. The 2026-27 season will be about proving it was not a one-month sample. Based on everything he showed, there is strong reason to believe he is ready for that challenge, starter or not. It is also worth noting that bench roles in Golden State's system are not necessarily limiting. Steve Kerr has always valued players who bring energy and execution in reserve minutes, and the Warriors' motion offense rewards intelligent players who move without the ball in attack when space opens. Santos checks those boxes. His footwork in the post, his ability to read the floor, and his willingness to take smart shots rather than force the issue make him a natural fit for what Kerr wants from his rotation. For Warriors fans, the big picture here is encouraging. Golden State did not just find a player who had a hot streak, they found a player who, at a team-friendly price, can provide consistent offensive punch from the second unit while the starters set the tone. Guy Santos may not have his name in the starting lineup when opening night arrives, but his impact on this team's chances will be very real throughout the season ahead. When the Golden State Warriors selected Jonathan Kuminga with the 7th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, owner Joe Lacob was thrilled. He said publicly that he could not believe a prospect of that caliber was still available when Golden State was on the clock. The front office believed they had found a cornerstone, a young, explosive forward who would eventually lead the franchise into its next era. What followed instead was 4.5 years of disappointment, distraction, and missed opportunity that analysts are now identifying as one of the key reasons the Warriors' dynasty faded. The selection itself came with an important backstory. Golden State had received a first-round pick as part of the D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins trade, and that pick became the 7th selection in 2021. Wiggins had already proven to be the better player compared to Russell, so the franchise essentially won twice on that deal, keeping a quality starter and landing a premium draft pick. Head coach Steve Kerr reportedly preferred Franz Wagner, who was selected 8th overall, but Lacob pushed for Kuminga, betting on sealing over immediate readiness. The 2022 championship, which Kuminga contributed to as a rookie, seemed to validate that bet. It did not last. The 2022-23 season exposed the cracks in the plan. Jordan Poole regressed sharply. James Wiseman struggled badly enough to be traded at the deadline. The veteran core needed help, and the young players were not ready to provide it. Kuminga showed flashes. His athleticism was undeniable, but the warning signs were already present. His three-point percentage sat at 37%, but he was not shooting nearly enough of them to be a reliable threat. His free throw percentage remained stuck at 65.2%. His ball handling and playmaking showed minimal growth, and the Warriors performed better on both ends of the floor when he was off the court. Despite all of that, the organization passed on multiple chances to trade him and get meaningful value in return. At the 2023 trade deadline, the Toronto Raptors had reportedly targeted Kuminga as part of a package for OG Anunoby. The Warriors passed. The Chicago Bulls reportedly offered Alex Caruso at the following trade deadline. The Warriors passed again. The Sacramento Kings were said to be willing to give up a protected first-round pick and Malik Monk in the summer of 2025. Golden State passed one more time, instead signing Kuminga to a 2-year, $48.5 million contract. That signing turned into a disaster almost immediately. Once Kuminga was removed from the starting lineup in mid-November of the following season, he became a full-blown distraction. He stopped performing. He eventually demanded a trade. His value had never been lower, and rival teams knew the Warriors were desperate to move him. Golden State had almost no leverage in negotiations. The final trade reflected that reality. Kuminga and Buddy Hield were packaged together and sent out in exchange for Kristaps Porzingis, a center who had missed 75 of his previous 134 games due to injuries and illness. For a player who had once been viewed as a potential franchise cornerstone, the return was shockingly modest. The dream had cost the Warriors dearly, not just in draft capital spent developing him, but in the opportunities they passed up along the way. The most painful element of this story is the opportunity cost. While Golden State was investing time, money, and roster space in Kuminga's development, there were better options on the table. The Anunoby trade would have added a proven two-way wing in his prime. The Caruso deal would have brought in one of the league's best defenders. The Kings' offer would have delivered a first-round pick and a reliable veteran scorer. Any of those outcomes would likely have kept the Warriors more competitive during Stephen Curry's prime years. Instead, Golden State held on too long, paid too much, and got too little. Over 6,000 regular season minutes of court time, more than 6,000 possessions shared with Stephen Curry, and the results never matched the investment. The Kuminga era did not end with a bang. It simply collapsed under its own weight. What remains now is the task of building something new with the pieces acquired in its aftermath, starting with Porzingis, and hoping that the lessons of those 4.5 years are not forgotten. What makes the situation even more frustrating is how early the signs appeared. By the second year, numbers already showed the team performed better without Kuminga on the floor. Analysts could see it, yet the organization kept doubling down, extending his role, extending his contract, and publicly defending a development arc that never materialized. The question now is whether Golden State has internalized what went wrong. Building around unproven players requires discipline. The discipline to cut ties when evidence demands it, not when the dream dies on its own. The Kuminga situation was a failure of decision, making stretched across multiple deadlines when the right call was simply to move on. For Warriors fans, this history is a reminder of what is at stake when roster decisions drag on too long. Stephen Curry is still playing at an elite level, but championship windows do not last forever. Every wasted season carries a real cost. The Kuminga chapter is now closed. The next one must be written with greater discipline and sharper judgment. The Golden State Warriors entered this offseason with real questions about their offensive depth. Jimmy Butler's injury timeline remains uncertain, the bench has lacked consistent scoring for years, and the team's offense ranked 19th in the league last season. So when DeMar DeRozan became a free agent following a buyout from the Sacramento Kings, the idea that Golden State might pursue him made a certain kind of sense. DeRozan is a proven scorer, a 6-time All-Star, and at 37 years old still capable of putting up impressive numbers. Those brief rumors, however, appear to be dead on arrival, and the reasons why reveal a lot about where the Warriors stand heading into 2026-27. The core issue is money. When DeRozan and his representatives entered the free agent market, they made clear that the veteran forward was not willing to accept a minimum contract. According to reporting by Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, DeRozan's camp is seeking at least the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, a substantially higher figure than the veteran minimums Golden State currently has available. The Warriors spent their mid-level exception to re-sign guard DeAnthony Melton, a move that made sense at the time given his defensive value and familiarity with the system. But that decision closed the door on any legitimate DeRozan pursuit before it even began. Golden State technically still has 2 roster spots available, but both come attached to minimum contracts. That is simply not what DeRozan or his representatives are looking for. Even setting aside the money question, the timing may have already moved against the Warriors. According to NBA insider Mark Stein, the Denver Nuggets have quietly emerged as the most likely landing spot for DeRozan, particularly after Denver sent Peyton Watson to the Cleveland Cavaliers in a sign and trade and found themselves with a need at the wing position. If DeRozan is going to accept anything close to a minimum, Denver appears better positioned to make that pitch than Golden State right now. The Miami Heat have also been connected to DeRozan, though their attention is reportedly split between him and another high-profile wing target in Klay Thompson, whose buyout situation with the Dallas Mavericks continues to develop. Golden State was briefly mentioned as a potential destination for DeRozan when he first became available, but those connections have gone quiet, a sign that the Warriors themselves do not view this as a realistic option worth chasing. To understand why Golden State is not forcing this issue, it helps to look at the broader offseason philosophy the front office has taken. Rather than signing veterans to shore up immediate weaknesses, the Warriors have chosen to trust their internal options to grow. That means expecting Kristaps Porzingis to stay healthier and more efficient in his role at center, counting on Brandon Podziemski to take another developmental step, and banking on rookie forward Yaxel Lendeborg to provide the kind of energy and production that typically takes young players a few seasons to reach. It is a bet on youth and improvement rather than proven veteran production. There is a reasonable argument to be made that DeRozan would help. His mid-range game is nearly automatic, his scoring off the dribble would give the Warriors something they genuinely lack, and his ability to draw fouls could help an offense that has struggled to get to the free throw line consistently. But that argument runs into the same wall it always hits. Golden State does not have the financial flexibility to make it work. The salary structure, the luxury tax implications, and the already committed resources simply do not leave room for a deal on DeRozan's terms. So the Warriors move forward without him. They will head into the 2026-27 season with the roster as currently constructed, relying on the health of Porzingis, the growth of their younger players, and the eventual return of Jimmy Butler to provide the offensive lift they need. DeRozan will land somewhere, most likely Denver, and Golden State will watch from a distance, having been briefly connected to a player they could never actually afford to sign. It is a story that captures exactly where this franchise stands right now, ambitious enough to be linked to marquee names, constrained enough that those links rarely lead anywhere real. The deeper issue is one of roster flexibility. For several off seasons now, the Warriors have found themselves on the outside of major free agent pursuits, not for lack of interest but for lack of financial tools. Their luxury tax position limits meaningful contract offers, and mid-level exceptions have been consumed re-signing their own players. Golden State is left betting that internal development outpaces their rivals' acquisitions. It is a difficult position for a team still trying to compete. DeRozan, for his part, is not entertaining below-market deals. Last season with Sacramento, he averaged 4 points and 4.1 assists per game while shooting nearly 50% from the floor. Those numbers command fair compensation. That he remains unsigned deep into August reflects a market that has not met his expectations, not a collapse in his value. Whoever lands him gets a proven scorer built for high-pressure moments. For the Warriors, the lesson is straightforward. Their path forward runs through the players already in the building and how much those players grow before opening night.